I mean, I had disordered eating for many, many years, but I probably spent about 5 years straight going onto the scale every single morning, and that number told me how I got to feel about myself that day, what mood I was in, the things that I got to do, whether I was allowed to go out or not, what I was allowed to wear. You think about what that does to a person over years and years. Your sense of self gets completely wrapped up in it, which means it's not being built elsewhere. You know, when they say that disordered eating is about control, I don't know about you, but when I was going through it when I was much younger and everyone was telling me disordered eating is about control, and I was like, no, it's not. I just want to be thinner. I totally get it now. What they're saying is, okay, yes, you want to be thinner, but why is it that you want to be thinner? You know, what is it that you're hoping that will give you that you don't have now, either through food or the restriction or the focus on our body? Because it's so much easier to think that that's true and that we can manipulate that than it is to either go through the difficult periods or to process difficult things or to build up our inner sense of self-esteem or to figure out what the hell we want in life. It's just easier. I often say to people, I didn't really start my development as a person properly until a couple of years ago. Build up a sense of self outside of food and dieting and disordered eating and weight. It's like my whole identity, and I put everything onto it. I mean, I had disordered eating for many, many years, but I probably spent about 5 years straight going onto the scale every single morning, and that number told me how I got to feel about myself that day, what mood I was in, the things that I got to do, whether I was allowed to go out or not, what I was allowed to wear. You think about what that does to a person over years and years. Your sense of self gets completely wrapped up in it, which means it's not being built elsewhere. So the biggest thing for me when it came to wanting to heal my relationship with food, and then everything that cascaded after that, was when I got to the point, and for some of you it would be less, some of you it would be more, where I could look back on 10 years of my life and see all the things that I hadn't done, all the things that I hadn't felt about myself, even the way that I'd let people treat me, that I treated myself. And it scared the crap out of me, honestly, seeing 10 years of that. And I looked them forward and I saw two options. Either it could be the same story or it could be a different story, and it kind of was a non-option to me. And that fueled with the fact that I was so desperate because I've been binge eating for so long, was when everything changed. So what I vowed to do while I was overcoming my binge eating by, letting myself eat properly for the first time, was I vowed that I wouldn't be looking back and seeing a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't do or be because of my body. So at that point I was like, look, I want to be thinner, I'm not happy, but at the very least I'm not going to let that stand in my way of doing things and being things that I want, because I know that at least I won't regret that. Even if I'm not happy in my body, at least I won't regret doing these things or becoming these things. So I started doing things that made me uncomfortable, sometimes really uncomfortable. Sometimes I was just outright scared about them. Going to certain social events, looking the way that I did, wearing certain clothes, saying yes to experiences, going on holiday and wearing a bikini. It started with things like that. And then through doing stuff like that, it started to highlight the stuff within myself that I really needed to work on. Because if I was going to anyway go on a beach in a bikini, even at a higher weight than I was comfortable with, and I was going to do that anyway because I wasn't going to let anything stop in my way, then I sure as hell now had to confront my issues with confidence and mind reading what other people were thinking about me, and even questioning why I even care. How does that even affect me? Even if they are thinking things, which of course they're not, how does that even affect me? So it started making me address some deeper things within myself. And so I did. Slowly but surely, all of these things just started to build until my self-esteem just started to grow. My understanding of who I was as a person and the things that I wanted, things that, I'd never really asked myself before because life was always on hold, started to become more and more apparent. And without now using food or my body to hide behind out of force, which, don't get me wrong, was incredibly uncomfortable. I'm not trying to, make the process seem easy. But through doing that, my growth as a person started to skyrocket. as did my confidence. I spoke about this in a video before. It was really ironic how at my heaviest ever weight, I became the most confident that I ever had in my life, the most self-assured. I knew exactly how to have fun. You know, I started building meaningful relationships with people, I started setting boundaries with people, and it all kind of built on itself. And then, and I'm like condensing the story all down, by the way, but then through doing all of this, because I felt so much happier, right? Because of all these things that I was doing and all the ways that I was growing and how self-assured I was becoming, how much I was using food emotionally started to decline. It became more and more easy to become a balanced, intuitive eater. My want to make decisions in order to feel well and energetic, that started to become the primary motivation as I realized that the things in life that I wanted, and I never would have believed this beforehand, I was achieving regardless of being at a higher weight, I found. And I was the happiest that I'd ever been. I was the most confident I'd ever been. And so my motivation for weight loss just started to diminish over time, and therefore my motivation is just for wanting to feel healthy and fit and well started to grow, and it became easier and easier to make the decisions for myself that I'd always wanted to but struggled to, because now I was doing so with compassion, with flexibility, with a long-term mindset. I couldn't fail at it, you know, and I liked myself, and all the punishment that I was using food for disappeared, or the emotional eating disappeared to a large degree, because I was actually fulfilling all of my needs now in a very real way. I feel like I could talk to you for hours about this, about my personal story with this. Feel free to ask questions if you want to. I can dive into more detail in another day. But the moral of the story that I'm trying to say is, even if you feel dissatisfied with your body, okay, which you shouldn't, but I'm not going to sit here and try and preach that to you because I know it would just go right over your head. Even if that's the case, why don't we try at least not putting our lives on hold? Because we won't regret that, you know? At least let's go out and do and be the things that we want to be, and ask ourselves what those things are. And when you find challenges in that to do with your confidence or setting boundaries or assertiveness that you need to build, then do the work there as well, and let's see what happens. Because these are things that you won't regret, even if your body, even if you still want to be thinner, even if you still want to change your weight and all that stuff, just do these things anyway. Respect your body and don't let it stand in your way. And I am so sure that through that, through this, the growth in your self-confidence and your self-esteem and your sense of self-efficacy, not only will how much you get preoccupied with food and your weight start to diminish, which is just, you know, and then that just opens up so much more in life that you can think about. Not only that, but when you like yourself, you know, and you're feeling good about yourself and you feel like you're kind of grabbing life by the horns, it is so much easier to flexibly and patiently and compassionately just start to tweak things here and there that you want to do that will improve your health. It will feel like coming from a completely different direction, honestly. You'll prove to yourself, even if you don't believe me now, you'll prove to yourself how much the food and weight thing actually is a distraction. It's a scapegoat, really. The only person that's ever standing in our way of these things is us, and we think we have a good reason to. And I say, let's prove ourselves wrong. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to start rambling now. I will see you in the next one. Sending you loads of love.